here is your Azure portal, and I'm going to walk you through the different categories. Okay, so you first have machine learning. So if you IT, okay, what I will highly recommend is that you get into machine learning, AI, and cybersecurity. So these are the three major services that the government is looking for. So when it comes to AI and machine learning, the most used services that people are looking after are Azure AI Search, which does retrieval augmented generation, which is RAG. You connect your data sets to Azure AI Search, and it's going to do some retrieval and get the most relevant information from the database. Okay, so that's the number one resource in Azure that I'm currently using. Another resource is Azure Machine Learning. This is where you can run any sophisticated and solid machine learning pipeline when it comes to inference or anything else that you will need. Now you can get into computer vision, okay? This is also needed depending on the kind of contract that you have. But also Azure OpenAI here. This is going to be your LLM, your large language model that you're going to be using. So Microsoft has an agreement with Azure OpenAI, but something big is coming also. Microsoft is planning on bringing Claude, and actually you can start using Claude. By the way, it's just that I haven't started using Claude from Azure yet, but it's already available. It's already there. I think you need to make a request to access Claude. And then you have a translator. You can actually do translation, language detection, okay, and translation using Azure OpenAI, or you can use the cognitive service translator that Azure also offer. So it's really up to you. Now, you have what else? Azure Synapse Analytics. That's where I'm heading to right now. Synapse Analytics. Actually, let me go back for a minute. Synapse can do a lot of things. You can do pipeline, machine learning pipeline. You can do also data pipeline in Azure Synapse Analytics. You can also do a lot of data engineering actually. So it's up to you. Now let's get to analytics. Um, to my, in my opinion, I will recommend Azure Synapse, like I was mentioning earlier, instead of Data Factory because Data Factory is a little bit outdated, I would say. So Synapse, I think, is best. I've used Azure Databricks in the past. It's also great for you to use. A little bit expensive, according to, in my opinion, but you can still use it for your own work. Now, if you have some heavy data engineering work, I will recommend Azure Data Explorer. That's where you have to write custom query language where you pull the data, and it's pretty much it's pretty much SQL that has been transformed, very efficient and very fast. Okay, so depending on your data engineering workload, this is what I will recommend. Um, and what else? Compute. When it comes to compute, right? Most of the workloads when it comes to machine learning or AI, you need some compute. Okay, some of the compute, the most important compute that you will need here. Um, Instead of using Azure Machine Learning is fully integrated, but you can also use virtual machine. You can develop your AI solution or your machine learning solution using a virtual machine. It really depends on how you want to do it. Now, if you have multiple virtual machines for different purposes, I will recommend a virtual machine scale set where you can organize your machine learning as well. Now, when it comes to deploying your application to the public on the internet, app services is my go-to, where you have your backend and you can use Azure App Services to make your application visible to the user. Then you have different container apps like Azure Container App, which I'm showing here, is also a proxy for app services. It's really up to you. If you have microservice, right? And serverless, these Azure Functional App and Azure Container Apps are very well recommended. And that also is also important to think about container. When we talk about container, you may have heard of Docker. Docker works pretty well with Azure Container Registry. You can actually sync your Docker with Azure Container Registry and ship it into your Azure environment, and it's going to work very well. When it comes to databases, again, um, I've used Azure SQL database, which was great, but my preferred one is Azure SQL for Azure database for Postgres flexible server. Why do I recommend that? I recommend that because Postgres is widely known, is very I would not say cheap, but it's very affordable as compared to Azure AI Search. And by the way, with Postgres, right, you can store your data set, and using the PG vector extension, you can also do search, right? You index your data and then you do retrieval. It works very well. Its work is as accurate as Azure AI Search, and I have not been disappointed. Okay, so if you're on a budget, okay, I would recommend using Azure database for PostgreSQL server. But if you want to scale quickly, I mean, you're gonna have to write a lot of code. But if you want to scale quickly, you don't want to think too much, and you want everything done for you, then I will highly recommend Azure AI Search. Now, MongoDB, if you don't know MongoDB, MongoDB is more of a data engineering resource. Another resource that has been very helpful, if you want to scale, like when I say scale, you have database from different dimension and from different region. Azure Cosmos DB is what I would highly recommend. I mean, it's extremely fast and extremely efficient, okay? But very costly. When it comes to DevOps, right, you will need DevOps to automate your system, save your codes, do some pull requests and some pushes, and manage pretty much your codes project. GitHub works well, but Azure DevOps also works well. It's really up to you. I don't have any specific preference. I personally, I love Azure DevOps. It's not, yeah, Azure DevOps is right here. GitHub is right here. It's both, they're both from Microsoft. Azure DevOps is more for organization, and I think is very well structured and organized. I would say even more than GitHub, even though GitHub is also already excellent. I'm gonna have a different video and show you guys how Azure DevOps can help with your organization and compared to GitHub, and it's really up to you which one you want to go. But I just feel like GitHub is more for personal purposes, even though some bigger organizations use also GitHub, but Azure DevOps is more specific to organization. I would not recommend using it for your personal project. And what else have I not thought about? So I've talked about machine learning, I've talked about data engineering, I've talked about AI. I think the next big thing that you need to think about is how to secure your project, how to secure your software. And when it comes to networking, you definitely do not want to neglect it, because you need to secure your software under a network. And this is where you will need either Bastion, and you're going to have to do a lot of networking configuration. And this takes some skills to do that. All this is related to cybersecurity, but on the Azure side, right? So you want to think about protecting, providing the least privilege authentication. There is a concept in Azure that I really love, which is not using key at all, and that kind of saves you from a lot of trouble. Instead of having to save keys and try to manage key left and right in your in your software, all you have to do is use Microsoft Entra ID, and that allows the different resources to talk to each other directly without having to use a key at all. So I think that this is huge, and is going to save you from a lot of issues when it comes to authentication. So, and lastly, and I want also to share about storage. So not only do you need compute, but you also need storage, right? So I think we talk about storage a little bit, but I also want to emphasize that here. A storage account is pretty much a resource where you can save all kind of data, right? Where you can save text, you can save images, you can save um, quantitative data, anything that you can ever think of, or in any format. And I love Azure Blob Storage because you can actually save a lot of money. So I have used a lot of data in a project, and it only cost me $10 a month, right? And we're talking about gigabyte here. So I love it. It's very easy to use, very efficient, and it can protect your data very well. So that's what I wanted to show you, and that was a quick walkthrough of Azure. And what I found very helpful when you deal with government, um, and this is my personal opinion, and you will hear that from a lot of other people and organizations, you definitely want to make your customer comfortable by letting them know that you're using cloud services. It can be Azure, it can be AWS. It really doesn't matter. As long as you tell them that you are using Azure and AWS, they will feel more, they will take you more seriously, okay? So I've looked at different other solutions which are on-premise, or some other solution which could be on the cloud, but I personally feel like Azure and AWS are leading and provide a lot of trust from the clients that you are dealing with, especially when it comes to the government, right? So that was it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to reach out if you have any question. I have a free community where I help on the technical aspect of Azure and AWS, and I also help with advising and consulting when it comes to government contracting in the IT space. Thank you for watching.